So this week I got the question from one of my patrons who was asking, well, would it be possible to make a piece of music where the melody would play only black keys on the piano and the accompaniment or bass would play only white keys without it sounding too dissonant or horrible? And obviously, yeah, you can. I mean, for instance, if you play in the key of B, and for the white keys I only use B and E, and for the rest I play melody with the black keys. So you can, but it doesn't sound quite interesting and a bit boring. So the challenge was actually to make a piece which uses all the white keys on the piano and all the black keys as well. And this is rather challenging because the white keys together sound all quite nice. But as soon as you add random black keys, it will become a big mess like this. So the most challenging thing was to come up with something that sounded both musical and elegant and not too far-fetched, but it still has to have all the white keys in the accompaniment or the bass and all the black keys in the melody. And my first idea was, well, what if I start with the key of C, which has all the white keys already. So I have those keys covered, and then I will just have to move to other keys in order to play the back keys on the piano as well. For instance, if I start in C, modulate to G, then I would already have covered one black key, in this case the F sharp. But as it turns out, this is not really the best way to do it, but because if I have to move to all different key signatures around C as well, it will be too complicated. And after some fooling around, I found out that I only have to play two key signatures which are close together, for instance E and E flat, which are well, really close on the piano, but in terms of tonality they're really far apart. Actually, instead of the E flat major, I use the relative minor, which is C minor. It's made up of exactly the same notes, but now I have E major and C minor. And for me that also fits the theme of the song, which is kind of, it's about the contrast between black and white, and I also now have the contrast between major and minor. So now I know which key signatures I'm going to play in, but another challenge is to come up with a melody with the black keys, which is kind of meaningful and significant, because if you play only in the black keys, you're playing a kind of pentatonic scale. Which kind of always sounds a bit universal. It never sounds bad or extremely good, it's just pentatonic stuff. It's never really dramatic or something like that, and that's why it's really common in blues improvisation and that kind of stuff. But I wanted to go for something a bit more compelling, so I came up with the idea of creating kind of anthem melody of the pentatonic scale, and precisely for this reason, because it sounds so, it has a kind of universal quality to it, but still it needs the key changes from the E major to the C minor in order to make it compelling and convincing. So I was trying to come up with the most simple and elegant way to cover all the notes on the piano just by playing in those two keys, E major and C minor. If I play in E major, for instance, it turns out that I don't have to play all the chords in this key in order to play all the notes. I only have to play the chords on the first and the fourth and the fifth note of the scale. This is the scale. The chord that starts on the first note, the chord that starts on the fourth note, this one, and the fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So by using those three chords, I have covered all the notes in the E major scale. And this is also why, if you have a melody in E major, you can harmonize every note of the melody just by one of those three chords. And the same applies, of course, for the C minor. I only have to use those 3 chords in order to have covered all the notes in the scale. So instead of having to modulate to all different kinds of key signatures, I can just reduce it to 3 chords in 2 different scales. And then it's only a matter of choosing which notes to play in the melody as well as the accompaniment. So this is what I came up with. It starts in the key of E. Repeat. Modulate to C minor. So the modulation to C minor is still a bit sudden, but you kind of accept it because you're already in the flow of the motive of this melody, in this kind of... Because it's repeating, you expect it to do something like it, but not exactly like this. But I think I get away with it. Modulate again. Back to E major. Repeat. Modulate to C minor. So that's it. And some of you might be thinking, well, what's the point? I mean, why think about it so much and make the music so conceptual? Isn't music just supposed to be about how it feels? And that's a good point. And what I'm trying to show is that this kind of conceptual, constructed music can still be emotionally significant and hopefully beautiful. And that thinking and feeling are not necessarily exclusive of one another and that they can go hand in hand.